Hi, this is Attila16 and this is a guide of DCS World. In this case, I will be showing you in simple terms how to start up your SU-25T and how to take off and how to land. Now the first thing you need to know is that normally you start out without any loadout, depending on the mission of course, but let's say that you start out without any loadout. What you do is you will simply hold the left alt key and quotation mark or apostrophe on your keyboard, and this will bring out this interface. So you just have to right click here and you'll be able to choose whatever loadout you want for the mission. You can also adjust the amount of flare, shaft, gun ammo, fuel, and you can see how much weight you have, as well as how much is the maximum recommended. And also here you can have some pre-defined loadout depending what you want. So that's all practical, and assuming that your engine are not running, the ground crew can rearm you and refuel you. So you click OK and normally the crew will rearm you. Now in this case I already have all my loadout, and the reason why I did that is that I want some weight in order to illustrate the impact of having weight or having the hardest difficulty for landing. Okay, so now what's important here is that nothing is active. So what you want to do is first light up this cockpit system. So you hold left and actually right shift L, and as you can see that light up everything. So now your electronic is active, and now you're ready to close your cockpit. So you hold left control C, and that will close the cockpit as well as open it. Then you may want to lower the flaps. So you can see down there there's three green light. That's your wheels, and as I lower the flap, now you can see the flap appearing, but I want to lower them more than that. So right now I click on F, that lower them to a certain level, but if I want to lower them to takeoff level, I will hold left shift F, and you will see them lower. So you can see here on the plane they go much lower. So this will be ideal for takeoff. Then there's also the air brake, which you click on B, and that make yellow lights appear there, and you can see them there if I move them. There we go. So with these you're pretty much aware without looking outside the plane of what's going on your plane. Okay, now let's start the engine. To start the engine, you have two engines on this plane, which allow you to fly on one if you feel like it, but it's recommended to start both of them. So you hold the right alt key and home. Now for people that might not know where home is, it's between insert and page up. So it's the home key, and you can see down there that okay, my view went all wrong there. Okay, so you can see that it's starting the left engine. You can also see that the temperature is increasing in the engine. Now we'll also start the right engine. So that's the right control home. Now my left engine is starting the right one. And you can see that when the indicator there is closing, that means that your engine is ready, and also you should see some temperature. So we're getting somewhere now. So you can see the temperature increasing, and now the engine is ready. So now we are at full power. The flaps are deployed, and we just have to push the throttle at the maximum. Now if in some case doing the key don't work to start the engine, maybe just play with the throttle of your joystick, and that will likely unlock it, because sometimes there's a small bug about that which happen where you won't be able to start your engine. So you just play with the throttle and normally that should fix it. Okay, now with this plane you need to reach a speed of at least 300 to take off, and this is an important value, and you can see the speed up there. Now I'm about to reach 300. There we go. Now my plane should be able to take off, and I'm in the air now. Let's confirm that like this. There we go. Okay, so I'm in the air now. I need to raise my gear, so I'm clicking G for golf. So there we go. Now you can see that there's a flashing light happening, and that means that my gear are raised. Now since I'm in the air, I also need to raise my flaps, so I'm clicking F 2 times, which will increase the, well, will retract the flaps, and the flaps increase your capacity to fly at lower speed. And now we're in the air. So as long as you're above 300, you're able to fly. So you can see here on the right side, well actually all the way up, there's altitude. So as you increase altitude, now I'm at nearly 600. Yeah, 600, 700. And you can see on the right side below a number, and that actually indicates you a little of speed at which you're gaining or losing altitude. And this is an important value, especially when you want to go land. So now I'm in the air. I'm currently in navigation mode by default, and that's number 1 on the keyboard. So you click number 1, and now you have access to waypoints. This is well, in this case I only have 1 waypoint, so I cannot really change anything. But if I click again on 1, then you have RTN, which is an indication that you can go back to base following this waypoint, which is indicated by an arrow all the way down there. Now you can see it tells you that there's the waypoint at 35 kilometers. So we'll go there. So I'm essentially 35 kilometers away from the base, and now I want to go land on it. So I click again on 1, and actually here it tells me that I'm at 18 kilometers. So that's probably another waypoint I was talking about earlier, but still we're heading into the right direction. So when you're in landing mode, what you can do is you can actually click backslash, and it will bring the communication interface. Then you click F5 for communicating with the ATC, which is the essentially the tower for landing. Then you click F1 usually, which is the closest airport, and then you click F1 again to indicate that you're inbound. Okay, so they're telling me to go to 226, so I will move to 226, which is a bit of an overestimation of, but anyway. Okay, now I'm requesting landing.
Manapa, in field 1-1, request landing.
Okay, so now what's important is that first of all I need to decrease my speed, so I deployed the brakes, which you can see also down there. Then I also need to deploy my flaps again, so I click left shift F, which is deploying my flaps. Then I will also lower my gears, which is G for golf. And now I will look where I'm going. Now here is what's important is to watch the value on the right side that indicate to you the speed at which you're losing altitude. And when you hit the ground, you want to be at around -1 to -2. If you get to -3 or -4 for that instance, you might actually damage your wheels depending the loadout. In this case I did well, but yeah, okay. So I'm on the ground and I'm holding W to put the brakes. Now as I'm below 200, I will click P to deploy parachute. Now let's see that. You can see the parachute behind my plane. That will slow me down. And now you can see that I'm going much slower with parachute deployed, brake deployed, flap deployed, and that allows me to ensure that I'm not running out of runway. The landing speed for this plane is around 300. It's the same as the takeoff, because if you go below 300, well, the result is you usually stall or you're hitting the ground too fast. If you go above that, well, usually it make it hard to make a smooth landing, so you'll bounce, and that will be a bad thing. Now that I landed, usually you take the sortie the closest, because otherwise they might remove your flying license. But in this case, since this plane is really fast, I went pretty far. So now I will take that sortie over there. Now slowing down, and there we go, turning. If you turn above a speed of 40, you will likely damage your wheels or perhaps flip. So keep a low speed when on the ground. In this case, what I'll do is I'll do a U-turn, which is something you should probably not do, but anyway, in this case I'll do it. So there we go, U-turn. And now I'm heading back to the runway. It's just for demonstration purpose here. Okay, slowing down. I'll brake. Okay, perfect. Okay, now that I'm landed, normally if it's a long mission, you might want to rearm and reload. So what you do is you shut down the engine, holding left Alt N key, which is just below home key. So that shut down the left engine. Then you hold right control N, and that will turn off the right engine. Then I guess you can open up your canopy, which is left control C. I will close my brakes, raise my flaps, and then I will simply ask the ground crew to rearm and refuel me. So I click left Alt quotation mark, and now you can see that I'm actually burned out 10% of my fuel. So I will drag this up, and now I say OK, requesting refueling. Now my engines are still running, so the crew is well, it's not running but still turning. I will also turn off the power, turn it on again. Now let's ask again for a refuel.
Request refueling. Request rearming.
Okay, now that my engine have stopped rolling, they are able to refuel me. So now you hear the refueling. Normally if you rearm, you will see the weapons appearing on your wings. Now if for some reason you damage something, you can actually repair your plane. So what you do is you do backslash, which is below backspace and above enter normally. And then you click F8, and then you request repair, which is F3.
Copy.
And now they will repair you. That might take a few minutes though. I think it's 180 minutes. Second. Minutes might be overkill. In the real world, that will probably be it. So now I'm pretty much ready to start again. I won't wait for the repairing because my plane is fine, so I'm starting my engine again. It's right alt home, then right control home. My engine are starting. You can see the heat goes up. And there we go.
Enfield 1-1. Anapa, cleared for startup.
Now I'm talking to the ATC to
Anapa, Enfield 1-1.
be able to go on the runway. Now the thing is that it's not necessary to do that, but in multiplayer it might be a good idea because that indicate friendlies that you're actually landing or taking off.
Clear to taxi to runway 4.
Because if somebody's landing, you don't want to be in his way, and if you're taking off, you don't want to have somebody land on you either.
Enfield 1-1. Anapa, you are
So
cleared
here we go, taking off again.
300 at QFE 756
Once again, I'll reach the speed of 300. Now in this case I did not deploy my flap yet, so I'll do that. You can actually take off without flaps, it's just that in some case the runway might be a little short, so it's recommended to have your flaps out. So I'm above 300, so I'm taking off. Now I'm raising my gear, G for golf, and we're flying. Now I will retract my flaps. There we go. And now we are flying. And I guess what I'll do is I'll fly, I'll return to base again. I will land. So I'm cycling around with one key. With the one key, I mean. To landing. I can see that I'm going away. I'm at 7 kilometer, 8 kilometer. Might be miles though, it depends how you set it. I guess when you're at 10 kilometer, you should have all the space necessary to land. So here we go again. I'm turning. As I'm turning, it might be a good idea to put the air brake and deploy my flaps again. This way, that allows me to slow my speed down if I'm going above 500 or that kind of stuff. Doing a turn is a good way to lose speed. At the same time here, I'm losing altitude at the moment, so I want to stabilize my altitude loss. And now I'm pretty well aligned, so I will deploy my gears. I will apply the air brakes. Now you're not necessarily forced to use the air brake. If you have a lot of space, you're able to maintain a stable speed around just a little above 300. I guess what I like to do here is to essentially aim for the black mark of tire on the runway. So notice how I align myself. Now here I'm losing too much altitude, so I'm increasing power. Okay, there we go. Now I'm decreasing power again. And now I should be well aligned. That should be a smooth landing. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that was a good landing, although there was a small beep there, which mean that it was maybe a little hard. But as long as your descent is not, let's say, over minus 4, you should be fine at not breaking anything. Once again, I deployed my chute like this.
Enfield 1-1. Taxi to parking area.
And now I guess I'm going slow enough. I disable my air brake, raise my flaps. It's not needed anymore. Now we'll speed up out of the runway because you want to get out of there as fast as possible without going too fast, if you see what I mean. So as you can see, it's not really difficult. It's just that you need to remember that W is the wheel brake. You activate that first. As you get below 300 in terms of speed, you want to deploy your parachute in the back, which is P, and with that will slow you down quite a bit. But if you deploy your chute too fast, the chute will simply fly away because of the speed. Also, once you use your parachute in the rear of your plane, it's like ammo that you spent. So this parachute, if you use it, it's gone. So you will have to do a rearm and refuel to get it back. So there we go. But the thing is that landing in this game, it's just a question of getting used to it. As long as it's not too hard landing, you'll be fine. If you go, if you get the -4 on the side there, or 5, that's starting to be a rough landing. You need to be at -2 or 1 or 0, but 0 mean that you're flying level, so you won't crash, or you won't land actually. So I hope that did show you how that worked. And if you have any other question about this game, feel free to ask, since this is actually a request. So I hope that answered the request. And if you have other requests, feel free to ask.